Hello, and welcome back to the season finale of Safe Space. I'm your host, Chris Edwards, and I've got a very special guest this week. This is very unusual. I don't really get this opportunity too many times, but let me welcome you, Mr. Ronald Clay.
Hola.
So, for those that do not know, Ronald is my husband. We've been married for almost 5 years, been together for almost 6, and I'm actually really excited to have him here today to kind of talk about his journey and share it with you guys today. So this is very special for me, so I hope that you guys enjoy this talk as well. So welcome, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Just a little unusual, right?
A little is fine.
Just a little bit, okay. So, I mean, you've seen the show, you've seen the format, so you know what this is about. And,
Yes.
what I would like for you to do is to kind of go back and tell people when it was that when you first realized that you were different. And we say different not to mean like in a weird way, but you know, just knowing that you didn't fit the quote unquote norm.
Honestly, I think the generic answer is I've always known, kind of. I remember being a little kid and like leaning more towards the feminine side of myself, I guess, and you grow up hearing, you know, man up or straighten up or don't walk that way or don't. But it was natural for me to be that way, and constantly hearing about yourself, you notice you're doing something a little off or a little odd against the hetero norm, as they say. So I've always kind of known. I remember really realizing, okay, yes, I am gay, I guess. I think when I was about maybe 12, 13, 14, because I remember that's when I started praying, like, okay, God, I don't want to take this into my next year. And then the next year would come and I would still feel the same way. And then I would say, okay, I'm not going to take this into being 16, 17, 18. Like that would literally be my prayer, to like be changed every single year up until I was just like, you know what, this is who I am. I think that was about 2021. But again, it's especially hard too, especially growing up in church. Both of my parents are ministers. I've been in church pretty much my whole life. And it's constantly kind of browbeat. And that's one of the major sins that people in the pulpit like to focus on. And like you're hearing this growing up and you don't recognize it as abuse. Unfortunately, it is abuse until you fully come into your own. So growing up in church, hearing, okay, being gay is a sin. So that's what would make me pray, okay, God, I don't want to be like this. I remember being in the house. There was a house we lived in Wilmington, and I fully realized it. And again, that's why I said, like, the prayers would start, okay, I don't want to take this into being 16. 16 would come. I don't want to take this into being 18. 18 came. I don't want to take this into being 21. Once 21 hits, I'm gonna get a girlfriend. I'm gonna get a wife, and I still wanted the hetero norm of what a family looks like. I still wanted the wife and kids, but I couldn't fight who I was any longer.
Right. So let's kind of go back a little bit and dissect it just a little bit. You said that you noticed that, you know, you stood out a little bit as far as being different and embracing your more feminine side when you were like, you know, 13, 14-ish. So that's really at the beginning of adolescence and puberty, and the hormones are starting to rage. You know, how was that, especially living in a household where, you know, your parents are both ministers, you've got other brothers that you're dealing with, and then also you have your sister. And I know that you and your sister are close. So how did you navigate that particular space?
I still tried to play straight, for lack of a better word. I still tried to play straight because I still tried to do the whole girlfriend thing. I had a girlfriend in 7th and 8th grade. We broke up in 7th grade, got back together in 8th grade. And then even in high school, there was a young lady that I was actually really interested in. I thought she was cute. We got along really well. We just never did that girlfriend-boyfriend thing because I had other people in my ear saying, oh, you don't want to date her. She's a Jehovah's Witness. She's weird. And I'm like, but I really like her. Um, and that's why too it was different for me to navigate because in the back of my head I knew I still had an attraction to other guys. I always knew I had an attraction to other guys, but at the same time I knew I liked who I liked, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this: was it more of you were vibing with the young lady that you were quote unquote attracted to,
Yeah.
versus like you were really like passionate about her, or was it just more like a deep friendship?
It may have been, looking back at it, it may have been a deep friendship, but I liked her. I liked her person, and even until honestly within the past, I would say 5 years or so, 5, 6, 7 years. That's when you came along. But I would always tell people which was my truth, and it still is my truth. I like who I like. I like the person. I don't consider myself bisexual because I am more attracted to men. I am more attracted to men.
Right.
But at the same time, if I connect with an individual, even back then in high school, if I have a genuine connection with somebody and we vibe in that way, then I go with it. Um, so it was never about gender to me then. It's still circumstances different because I'm married, so there's that. But it's still not necessarily about gender. It's more so about the person. It's like if I like you, I like you.
It's a vibe, it's a feeling, and I think that's where a lot of people get it confused. I think society tells you you have to like a particular group of people. You have to either be straight or gay. There's no fluidity in sexuality, which is totally not the truth. I think we're all fluid to a certain degree. I identify as a bisexual man. I know who I am. I know what I'm attracted to. I'm attracted to both sexes. And I've said this over and over again, and I will continue to say it until my dying day because I know who I am. I fought it for a long time, but I do know who I am. All right, so getting back to you, adolescence, you're coming to your own. You're realizing that you're attracted to different types of people. It's a vibe for you. Now let's look at there's high school and how do you navigate that space because high school is crazy on its own. In addition to having these feelings and wanting, I think that there is an age gap between us. There's 11-year age gap. As I can say it now, like I couldn't have dated you back in the day because I would have been rocking the cradle.
Yes.
But how do you navigate like high school and just trying to be yourself authentically?
High school was trash. I don't think I was myself authentically, if I'm being honest, because I still was trying to fit the mold of what other people wanted. Because everybody knew me as like the church boy, and even outside of school, if we weren't in school, we were in church. So I still kind of had to keep a facade up. So it was easier for me just not to date. I never really dated anybody in high school. I had attractions in high school, yes. But high school sucked because people saw something in me that I wasn't ready to admit. I got questioned so many times as to whether or not I was gay. Even though a lot of people saw me hanging out with this young one lady and there were conversations being had about whether or not she and I were together, I kind of played into trying to make it seem like we were. Looking back on it now, I really just had that realization. I kind of played into kind of making it seem like we were just to get people off of me per se. But I remember almost getting into a fight because I heard there were conversations being had about me in regards to my sexuality. And it wasn't so much the context of the conversation, it was the fact that people were talking about me, period. I confronted the young man that I knew was talking about me. He punked out because I wasn't no punk. I'm still not, so don't try me. But it was just one of those things, just constantly trying to navigate, constantly trying to validate the persona that I was putting out. That's not necessarily who I was. I was constantly trying to make it seem like I wasn't who everybody else saw. And it's hard being constantly told who you are without fully knowing who you are.
Right.
Like I knew who I was as far as it pertained to church. I knew that was fine. but me personally in dealing with my sexuality and just dealing, not even take the sexuality out of it, dealing with me as a person, because I'm also fighting with my faith because I'm being told in one place you're not good enough because of this part of yourself, and then you go to school. I felt inadequate because I wasn't the greatest scholar. I wasn't dumb by any means, but I hated being in school. So I was barely paying attention because I just didn't want to be there.
Right.
So I'm fighting with that. School, honestly, I think I fought depression all 4 years in high school. Looking back on it now, because again, it was a constant battle of who are you? I think a lot of people deal with finding out who they are. Those are very formidable years. So you're constantly trying to deal with who you are. You're dealing with people telling you who you are, and you're fighting against people telling you who you are.
That, I mean, that has to be difficult. And, this is why I believe that the suicide rates for queer individuals is so high, because especially when you have no outlet, and then also when you're having to deal with, church as an added pressure, because let's just be for real. The Black church is not always the most welcoming and very judgmental.
It's
and
not a safe space.
It's not a safe space. It's getting a little better, but it's still not there. So, to be able to admit that takes a lot of courage. And, I respect you for the fact that you've dealt with a lot. And I've seen that journey over the last almost 6 years now. And I think that you're at a place where you're comfortable with who you are in regards to church and faith. And that wasn't an easy task. So, and it's a constant journey, I think.
It's still not necessarily easy. Navigating faith and sexuality is a constant. I'm not even going to say it's a battle, especially not anymore, because I've kind of removed myself from the church aspect. I've had to learn who God is for myself, and not having a bunch of other stuff in my ear. So I've actually come a very long way, and being comfortable in both my faith and who I am just as a being.
That's awesome. All right, so let's move on to age 21, because I know that was a very pivotal year. So tell that story and all that entails with being 21 and then also letting people in.
Well, my letting in story is not as dramatic as a lot of other people's. I remember I was dating someone, and I didn't want to lie about who this person was. I didn't want to bring this person around and just be like, oh, this is just my friend, because I felt like we were going to be together for a while. So I remember he came over Thanksgiving, and it was after Thanksgiving dinner. I remember telling my mom in the kitchen, like, me and this person are more than friends. And I don't think she necessarily got it in that moment, but I remember going upstairs. I was living by myself at that time, too. So I think that's what made it easier, too. I remember going upstairs, talking to my dad, saying, hey, are you busy tomorrow? I think we should go out to lunch. He was like, okay, yeah, cool. So me and my dad went to Ruby Tuesday. I don't even know if they still exist anymore. Me and my dad went to Ruby Tuesday that next day. And I was just telling him, like, hey, me and this person are more than friends. And it was literally, my dad was like, okay. that's all that was. He was like, okay, we've been waiting for you to tell us. And he was like, your aunt was right. My aunt Leah, I love her dearly. She, I guess they've been having conversations, which happens in a lot of families. But the only thing that bothered me about that whole situation was just the fact that I remember specifically telling him, let me be the one to tell people. And unfortunately, Dad, I did not get that. I did not get that opportunity. But it's fine. I did not have a big drag out, bust down type of letting in story. It was simply, this is who I am, this is who I'm with, and everybody was just like, okay.
Yeah. The one thing I know about you and your family, especially, I love my in-laws and I love all the family that comes with it. They're the most supportive people. And I remember them just welcoming me with open arms when they first met me. It wasn't even about, all right, well, now you're married, you're in the family. It was from the moment they met me, it was just like, yeah, you're the person for him. And it always felt, and he'll tell you this, but it always felt like we just all knew each other from the very beginning. It's never ever been, well, I have to get to know you and let's see if we like you. No, it was like instantaneous for all of us. But your mother and father have been so opening and welcoming, and if how they treated me from day one is how they treated you from the moment you told them. Listen, you couldn't ask for a better story. Trust me.
I can say I'm very fortunate. I'm very blessed to be able to have the family that I have because even like I said, even growing up in church, people have certain ideals about certain things, and I think it helped because they've always known. But at the same time, it's one thing to know or think you know, and it's another thing to actually know or to be out there. So I am blessed to have the family that I have because it was never an instance where I felt rejected or I felt like I didn't belong with my family. Um, I don't think I had that problem with anybody in my life. So I don't take it for granted or I don't take it lightly that I've been fortunate that I've surrounded myself with people who love me for me, who accept me for me, and there's no changing that, regardless of the circumstance.
So, you've let your family in. They now know who Ronald Clay is. And now you're starting to freely navigate this world in your truth and your full identity. Kind of.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Yes.
So let's talk about what's that time period. I mean, there's a whole space between you letting people in and us meeting. What was that like for you?
It was still tough because I was still heavily involved in church. So I was kind of living a double life per se. Like, so with my family, I was open, honest, and everything. But when it came to my church family, there was still a part of me that I thought I was hiding. I say I thought that I was hiding because even the people in my church, the people closest to you know. But at the same time, it was never discussed. And like we would still move about as if, I was still living this quote unquote heteronormative life. So that was still kind of tough for me. I think it caused a lot of depression in my life too because I'm dealing with the duality of what the church expects me to be and what I want to be. So it's kind of like I'm like ducking and dodging, hoping like people don't see me with this person, or if they do see me with this person, how do I introduce this person? Or even just being out in general, like I have to watch the way that I walk or the way that I speak because there's a lot of gay lingo. So it's like I can't really use that around them and them not like raise an eyebrow. But again, like the eyebrows were being raised anyway because I wasn't good at hiding it. The one thing about me is I'm always going to be me in whatever room I'm in. I can I can do code switching is what they call it, to an extent. I know how to hold myself in certain spaces, or at least I thought I did. I thought I did try to, but it was still a lot to navigate. It was honestly, it caused a lot of dark days. I remember there are a lot of nights that I cried. I'm like, okay, God, why am I still like this? Especially being single and navigating single life. Because I have desires. Everybody has fleshly desires, but then you go to church and you're told deny your flesh and all that other stuff. But I'm like I'm still a grown man, and like these are things that I want. And it's like when things would happen with certain individuals, it's like okay, I kind of feel dirty, but I kind of don't because it's satisfying. But at the same time, I know I'm not supposed to be doing this. So it caused a lot of mental problems for me. I remember even going to the doctor, and I was diagnosed with depression. They tried to put me on medicine, and I was scared of it. So it was a lot, and it still kind of is a lot to navigate because now that I've removed myself from church, they were a big part of my life for so long. But I had to do that to fully embrace who I am and fully live my life every day out loud. And that was hard. And it still is hard some days because, you miss people that you were so connected to. So like that space between us meeting, especially the years or so that I was single, it was hard to navigate because again, those years I was still heavily involved in church. I gave my initial sermon during those years. I actually preached a couple times and I'm like, okay, when I get up, God, give me a word that's not going to condemn anybody. Because who am I to get up and condemn something when I have my own quote unquote thorn? Like anytime I got up, I spoke about love because that's what God is. That's what God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, that's what it is. That's what should be taught in church. It's about accepting people as their whole being because that's what Jesus did. So it's like how it was a lot of me trying to figure out how you people say you follow Jesus and you love God, but yet you're not loving the person who's a little bit different from you.
So I want you to pause for a second. I want you to look into that camera and say what you just said.
I gotta remember what I said. But again, like it's navigating faith, and like I said, every time I got up and spoke about love because that's what God is. That's what Jesus is. And how do you say you follow Jesus? How do you say you follow God and you don't love somebody else just because they might be a little bit different from you? Like that just doesn't. It's an oxymoron in itself. It really is.
Wow. So that's very powerful, and to be able to have um, that foresight to have that, I think is very powerful. Now, let's kind of move up to 2018, no, actually, let's go to 2019, the end of 2019, because I think that was a very pivotal moment for both of us. I mean,
it was the beginning of 2019.
Huh?
It was the beginning of 2019.
Yeah, no. So actually, let's jump back to the end of 2018. Let's start from there because I think that we both didn't realize what was set in motion then. So go ahead. I've told this story, but I want people to hear the story from your point of view.
All right. So it was December 27th, 2018. And yes, I remember the date. It was December 27th, 2018. I remember coming across your picture. It wasn't your post because somebody else had posted you. I want to say his name is Ministry of Style or something like that.
Minister of Style,
Minister of Style. He posted you. And I liked the picture that I saw. So he tagged you. So I went to your page. And I just remember going through your photos. Like you were really big on taking photos of yourself then. So I remember going through your photos and I remember following you. And you sent back that generic, hey, thanks for the follow, you know, and I remember verbatim, I sent to you, I said, you're welcome, I really love your style. I want to be like you when I grow up. And then all you did was like the message or whatever. Or I think you at least said thank you. And that was it. That was December 27th of 2018. And then fast forward almost a month later, it was January 18th. January 18th, you came across a video of me singing. And I don't even remember what video it was. I'm sure I don't even have it posted anymore. But it was 9:31 at night.
Yeah.
And you just messaged me simply saying, hey, you have a really great voice. Keep doing what you're doing. And I said, oh, thank you. I'm trying to get comfortable with my voice because at the time, I'm still not really confident in my voice. There's a story behind that too. I'm still not fully confident in my voice, but I was like, thank you. I'm not really confident. I'm trying to, do more. And because at that time, I remember making the conscious effort. I wanted to start making music. So that's why I started posting myself singing more. Because so many people, again, telling me, oh, you should be making music. You should be singing. Da, da, da. And the funny thing is, the week before I had like a showcase at a place called Cool J's. They did like open mic nights and they had asked me to come and do a few songs, and I did that. That was literally the week before you had hit me up, and then ever since then we just been attached.
It was a vibe.
We stopped talking. I want to say it was like 2:23 in the morning. It was being at home by myself then because I was single. It was the norm for me. I was literally sitting there watching Friends on Netflix. That was before they removed Friends from Netflix. That was my normal Friday night. That was my normal, just chill vibe. And then you asked me for my number. He was like, okay, I'm gonna call you. And I'm like, okay, yeah, right. He just talking. He actually called me. He called me in the morning. Early in the morning. I remember I was coming back from Acme because where we used to live, there was an Acme right down the road. I was coming back from Acme because I needed a couple groceries to cook that night. And we literally have not stopped talking since. And I remember, I want to say a few weeks later, we met up in Philly that first weekend in February. And it's been that since. And then he came down the week of Valentine's Day or the weekend of Valentine's Day, and that's when my parents ambushed him. My mom knew I was seeing. My mom knew I was seeing somebody.
Wait, all right. Let me ask you this: how did your mom actually know?
Because they knew I was going to Philly to meet you when I went up the first time.
Okay.
I did tell her, you know, I'm going up to Philly to
just in case he ain't come back and like
That
they know
part.
who murdered him.
Listen, that part. I want to say I even sent Sharon, my sister. I want to say I even sent her your picture. I was like, "This is who I'm going to be with," because you know people are crazy.
And hold on, there's a story behind that. He watches the first 48, so he's very suspicious to begin with.
Yes. So we met in Philly. It was an amazing weekend. And then you came down a couple weeks later, and like I said, my parents. First of all, where I lived at the time, because he didn't live here yet. Where I lived at the time, there was no such thing as just being in the area. There's absolutely no such thing as just being in the area where I live. My parents called me like, "Hey, we're there." Mind you, it's a Saturday at like 7, 8 o'clock at night. They were they already? No, they were living in Wilmington still.
Yeah.
But even still, like 7, 8 o'clock at night, because I remember we were watching an Alfred Woodard movie on Netflix.
Yeah.
Y'all aren't in the area. Y'all are being nosy right now. You know I have company, and you want to see who's here. But like he said, like from jump, my parents felt very comfortable with you. I always felt comfortable with you. I think you mentioned before, like it's never felt like you weren't here from the moment that we met. It never felt like. I think I got a little bit scared because I never had that like new feeling. You know how when you get into a new relationship. And you get the butterflies. And I remember watching a therapist. A therapist was saying that's trauma. You're actually not supposed to have those feelings. But I didn't have those feelings with you because I don't think I questioned anything. It was just like, okay, he's here, and that's all it's going to be. And the funny thing is, I wasn't looking for a relationship. I didn't want a relationship, to be honest, because people have tried, and there were several times where I'm like, okay, yeah. No, this ain't gonna happen. But then you came along, and it felt normal. It didn't feel like I was trying.
Yeah, like this whole relationship has never ever felt like you have to try to do anything. It's just we're just existing. I mean, even like when I remember when I introduced you to my family, like my mom, my cousins, stuff like that. The only thing I can say about that is like Simone, I'm going to call you out. You know, my family fell in love with Ronald from the very beginning. They were mad at me because why didn't we get an invite to the wedding?
No, Simone was mad at me.
Well, that too, because no one came to the wedding. We got married at the courthouse. We only had a handful full of people there, but it really has just been effortless. Like I've been in, numerous relationships over the 40 years I've been on this earth. And I can say this is the first relationship that it just felt, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, he doesn't even put the effort in to do it. It was just like, we started talking, and like, till this day, we can sit here just like this and just talk. Or we can sit on the couch. This is our favorite couch we sit on during it in the evening times when we watch TV.
Our favorite couch, so we need a new couch.
Yeah. But no, like, we can just sit there and not say anything and just watch TV, and we're completely fine. That's when you have the person you're supposed to be with in your life. You can have conversations and be okay. You can be in the same room and not speak and be okay, and know that it's okay. Every once in a while, I'll just look up like, "You good? Yeah, okay." I can sit there and watch him breathe when he's sleeping. I want to make sure he's still breathing, like that type of like feeling. And I don't know if I've ever express this to you, but like there are times like when if I get up in the middle of the night and I'll just sit there and I'll watch you, and like that thought of, oh my God, there's gonna come a day one day when one of us is not here, and like that is the only time that I can ever say that I ever like have like that lump in my throat. I mean, because here's the thing. I mean, just be realistic. When you get married to someone or you in a relationship with someone, there's gonna come a point in one of your lives where one of you are not there, or if God decides to take both at the same time. But there's that strong possibility. But yeah, talk about what I guess this relationship has meant to you and just being seen?
Honestly, it means, I don't want to sound cliche and say it means everything to me. But you have given me the strength and the capability to be 100% myself. But I will say, if you weren't here,
Okay.
if you weren't here, I would probably still be living in, I would still have the facade of the duality of church and sexuality. And I say church, not faith. Catch that. Because my faith has never been shaken. If anything, you've helped me build my faith. Because of you, it gave me the strength to step away from the church and know that God will still be here. Because God is here. Anywhere I am, God is going to be here. So you gave me the courage to live authentically as myself in every aspect of my life. If you weren't here, I don't think I would ever be who I am today, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense because I feel the exact same way. I think not until the day that I met you could I say that, all right, world, this is who I am. You know, my story, the struggle I had up until the day that I met you. And I truly believe that sometimes it takes a certain individual to allow you to just be yourself. And I'm not going to say the authentic self, but just be yourself. Like I felt like the moment I met you, I didn't have to hide anything about myself. And I remember that night when we first talked on, and not even really talked, like just literally we were texting in Instagram in the DM, and I remember saying to you that I just want to see where this goes. And while saying that, in my mind, I'm saying to myself, and I've said this before, I said, God, whatever this is, allow me to be open to it. And saying those words and allowing myself to receive who you are as a person, I think was probably not just a breakthrough, but probably the most authentic thing that I could have ever done for myself. Because what that allowed me to do is to rip down all my walls instantaneously and allow you to invade a space that I could never open up for anyone else. Um, and it's just been so freeing to know that there was someone out there meant for me. Like you, I wasn't looking for anybody. I was completely content with this being single and, you know, going out there and living my life and traveling and doing the photography. Because at that time, that's what kind of gave me meaning. It gave me purpose. And I just really enjoyed that aspect of my life. And I did not realize that I was missing out on so many other things until that night that, we communicated. And then that following day when we talked on the phone. And then, you know, especially in this fast paced world, when it comes to people, sometimes you want to be very cautious. And some people can be very standoffish. Um, you weren't that, and I wasn't either. And I remember saying, well, look, we have to definitely meet up and, because there's just something palpable here. And it was something that I just could not fight. And I remember, that first initial time we met in Philly, that was like a whirlwind. I remember everything so vividly. We checked into the Logan um, in Philadelphia. And then after that, we had an amazing dinner at that steakhouse, which was right around the corner. And I mean, it's no longer there. We actually, so here's some nostalgia. Um, the Logan was the first place we ever stayed together. That steakhouse was the first place we ever ate together. A year later, when we got married, because we did, justice of the peace, we didn't really plan like a honeymoon or anything like that. And then plus COVID had set in right after we got married. We went back to the Logan and spent our honeymoon weekend at the Logan, and we went back to the same restaurant, and we actually sat in the same booth
And had the same server.
and had the same server and basically had the same meal
Yeah.
a year later, just a little over, actually almost a year later, basically. Uh, I think it was a shot. It was like 1 week or like a couple of days shy of actual year that
It was like a day or so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I think that our relationship was just always destined to be. And there's so many things about us that are just so unique. Like, and people always see it in us. Like when we're around each other, we'll say the exact same thing at the exact same time, or we'll finish each other's sentences. And people look at us like, that's weird. It's not weird to us because it's something that we just do on a regular basis. And I think it's just been something inherently us and authentically us from the very beginning. Um, and, I've just thoroughly enjoyed this entire journey of the almost 6 years. Now, don't get me wrong, we're not perfect.
Sure.
We have our moments. But the one thing I will say about us, we're not that type of couple where we argue a lot or even often. I mean, maybe once every 6 months we might have if that, maybe have like a disagreement. And there are moments where, I know that I have things that I need to work on. Ronald has things he has to work on.
I'm perfect. What you talking about?
Whatever. But, the thing about it is we work it out,
Yeah.
And that's the one thing about us that I've always just really loved. We're able to talk to one another. It might not be that in the very beginning, but we get to that space and we work it out. And, we could be fine just like that. But I appreciate you for what you've meant to me in my life, what you've meant for me and my family, which is now your family. And that's the one thing I can say that you have such an amazing relationship with my mother and especially my father.
Yeah.
And I have to say this, like, I remember when I started telling, everyone in my family, I thought it was going to be very hard and very trying. And it really wasn't. And I think that's a testament to you and who you are as a person.
I will say I was nervous meeting your family because it wasn't even so much who your family are as people, because they're amazing people, but you still wonder about, the whole Caribbean background thing, and it made me nervous.
Yeah.
But meeting them, it's just like, okay, I think the first time I met them, like truly met them, did they come here?
So no, there was two. So the first time we actually met them in person, we didn't. Well, no, they knew. Well, my mom knew it because it's when we went to during COVID when we went to grab some stuff from.
Oh yeah,
from
yeah,
me.
yeah, yeah. But I didn't even meet them then. Like your mom was just in the
right, because we couldn't be in person.
Yeah, I don't think I came in the house then. I think you went in to like grab stuff.
Yeah.
And I sat in the car.
Well, no, I think like the really first big meeting outside of like maybe like the short interaction was when they came down for Christmas.
Yeah.
In 2021, I believe it was.
Yeah.
So we had just moved here where we're living now. And, I'm big on family. I'm big on the holidays. I love Christmas. Like Christmas is probably outside of Thanksgiving, like the holiday that just what I'm in love with. I love to decorate and I don't want anyone to help. We've got a big Christmas tree and, the whole place is just filled with Christmas, And I was just like, listen, I want to invite my parents down. And it was like, all right. And they came down and I mean, you would think that him and my parents knew each other for like decades. Like that's just how much in love they were with him. And I remember like my mom was always the big Christmas and holiday, cook. So it was like, come down. You don't have to do anything because Ronald is an amazing cook. And he cooked our holiday meal. And I think he was nervous because he was just like, because he knows my mom's cooking and stuff like that. But my mom was totally enthralled with the Christmas meal and just like the fact that you did all that because it was a huge spread. And not only did my parents came and stayed with us for a while, but his parents, my in-laws, came down and we all broke bread together and like to me, that meant the world. It was just like, this was something that I didn't even know that was even possible for me. To be able to have both of our families together and just to break bread and just be one like beautiful family. And it was really like a whole weekend thing because we spent Christmas Eve at Ronald's parents with my parents, and then everyone came here to spend Christmas Day with us, and just opening gifts together. Because I believe they came for even for breakfast. We had breakfast and dinner. I think
Yeah.
breakfast was lighter, but we had like a huge dinner. Um, Talk about what that experience meant to you.
First of all, I was nervous as Jax because I always get nervous when I'm cooking for anybody because it's something that's kind of important to me. When I cook, I like to kind of like zone out and just do whatever it is I'm doing. And I don't necessarily like cooking for other people because everybody doesn't have the same palate. So I was nervous to that extent. Um, but also because that was the first time we would be sharing our space with anybody. And because I didn't have too many conversations with your parents, I don't think I actually had even met your dad before that point. Your dad nor your brother before that point.
Right.
Um, so it was, I think, looking back on it, it means a lot because we were all comfortable and we were all chill and like there was absolutely no tension. Once they got here, I was like, okay, they're here and it is what it is. But I don't think I was able to live in the moment because I was too in my head about it.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest. It's just because again, I kind of do. There are moments where I do lean more to the effeminate side. So I'm always conscious of like, okay, am I being too feminine around these people? Like, can I touch you in front of your parents? Can I kiss you in front of your parents? It was all of that.
Yeah.
Was in my head.
But I think going through is kind of like, because I remember having to, I don't want to say soothe you, but just like, it's okay. It's okay. Just be yourself. Like, you're in your space. You know what I mean? I think it went well. And listen, my father just is in love with Ronald and who he is as a person. Like, they have like their own relationship. And there's never a time when I um, call my parents, if he's not around, the person asking, well, where's Ronald, or how's Ronald doing, or and my mom and him talk on the phone on their own. And one of the things I really love about my relationship with them is that every morning my mom sends both of us a text. We're in a group chat, just saying good morning to us, and we reciprocate. But it's just the little things sometimes that mean a lot. I remember recently Ronald had mentioned, he was like, "Your mom didn't text us this morning," and he sent her like, "Well, you didn't send us a text yesterday. What happened?" She got busy. She was doing yard in the garden, whatever. But you look forward to those things, and we can't go to New York without Ronald having to either bring my dad homemade cookies or bring the dough. He'll make the dough here, bring it there, and cook it for him, and leave it for him, because that's one of the things that it's one of the first things that Ronald did was kind of bake, and that my father loves food. He's a foodie, and certain things he's not supposed to eat. My mom will allow him to eat like when he's around us or whatever. But it's one of those things that makes family, but I'm just so appreciative of what we have, what we built, and what we're continuing to build. So as we start to wrap this up, I always ask everyone. One, where do you see yourself in 5 years, or where do you see us in 5 years?
In 5 years, I expect us to have been able to travel a little bit more. I expect us to continue to grow both financially, physically, as far as like health is concerned. Um, just continue to be happy. In 5 years, it'll be 10 years that we've been married.
It's crazy.
So I feel like what we have is great. So it's one of those things. It's like if it's not broke, don't fix it, type of thing. And I never feel like I get bored, but just with life in general. So I don't feel like I've ever been bored with you, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Like everybody has those moments where it's like, okay, I'm bored. We need to find something to do. But I'm saying like I don't feel like what we have is boring. Yeah. So I don't feel as though this won't get old. So as long as we keep on the trajectory that we're going, we'll be fine. That's where I see myself in 5 years. More just being content as I am now.
Okay. And then last question. What are some words of wisdom that you can leave with the viewers today?
Live your life. One thing I carry with me, I spoke with my brother a week before he passed. He passed in 2016. And one thing he drilled into me while we were on the phone, he was like, man, you gotta live, you gotta keep living. And he even said, he was like, I don't know why I keep saying this to you, but you have to live. I think his spirit was preparing him and preparing me for him to no longer be here. And that's a whole other story. But live your life for you. As far as we know, we only get one. So do the best you can by yourself and for others. But make sure you are taking care of you. Make sure you are living the life that you want to live. I don't like when people say, oh, you live the gay lifestyle, because it's not a lifestyle, it's my life. You afford a lifestyle. So figure out how to afford to live the lifestyle that you want. And that's all I have.
Wow. Well, listen, this was a great way to wrap up this season of Safe Space. In full disclosure, Ronald was the one that approached me to even do this episode, because sometimes this is what I do as a part of my job, and I don't try to push it on him. So for him to come to me and say, hey, I want to do an episode, like, that meant a lot to me. And I'm thankful for you even wanting to do this, to share your journey, your story. I'm hopeful that this will touch someone, allow them to live their authentic life and just to be themselves. So with that, thank you for another amazing season of Safe Space. I look forward to seeing you guys in season 3. So as I say, take care of yourself, take care of others, and maintain a safe space. Thank you guys, and see you in season 3. Oh, thank you. Mwah. That was perfect. Thanks for watching this show on Indecent Media. Now, if you're watching here on YouTube, make sure to subscribe, like this video, and hit the notification button so that you can get notified when we drop new videos every week. See you guys next time.